Hello, everybody. This is Micah Lieberman with SCOPE and with ClinEco. And as you know, we have a lot of fun interviews focused on different things, different topics, different challenges in clinical research and clinical development, drug development more broadly, but usually focused on clinical. Today, you'll recognize Michael because Michael Cohen, he heads up sustainability at Thermo and PPD. When we're together, you know the topic is focused on sustainability. So today, I think is, Michael, this is number 5 in our series, right? Number five. We're doing well.
We've had what, someone from J&J, GSK, Bayer, PhD, Fulbright scholar from Oxford.
That was
cool. Now we have Hannah.
All right. So Hannah Sieber is the CEO, and she's also the co-founder of Artyc. And the reason we have her, Hannah, why are you here? Do you even know, how did you get suckered into this? So the reason she's here is, tell us really quick, tell us what your company does, because this is not, it's very relevant. You founded this company, you've spent a lot of time. What does your company do?
Yeah, so Artyc builds an on-demand platform for middle mile and last mile cold chain logistics. That's a mouthful, but what you can think of it as we're really building reusable battery-powered shippers with all the data and analytics that allow you to build a more precise, more resilient, and more climate-friendly cold chain.
Cool. I think you've said that before. Before we started recording, I made in fun of her. So, okay. So Hannah, so I'm going to kind of set the stage. So cold chain is a challenge. We have discussed this even in our conferences, some of our more kind of biologics focused conferences focused on drug development, and not at SCOPE as much. So kind of, can you talk about both the economic and environmental impacts of cold chain shipping, especially as it relates to clinical trials? Help us set it up.
Yeah. So just to put this in perspective, today the industry spends a lot of money on cold chain transport and logistics. So that's everything from the packaging, the monitoring, to the cold trucks or validated shippers, dry ice, all of that. So last year it was about $52 billion that was spent just to transporting, and that's just in pharma at large for transporting temperature sensitive goods. And then on top of that, the industry lost 35 billion in product spoilage. So that's the cost of things that weren't managed properly and couldn't be used. And so when you think about the impact, it's enormous, and it goes well beyond, the dollar cost. That's a life, that's a patient, that's someone who didn't get the IP they expected, someone whose treatment was delayed, whose samples were not processed. So all of that is really, really, really meaningful from a research and a patient access perspective. On the climate side, it's about 4% of global emissions. That's cold chain at large. That does include not just medical. That's kind of our entire cold chain. Within that, there are varying opinions on what medical is, but you're looking at anywhere from 0.5% to 1%. And that's the first order impacts, but also all the second and third order impacts. So what I mean by that is that's both the waste, so like the physical packaging, all of that, but then that's also the energy use and the energy costs, and then of course the impacts of spoilage itself.
Yeah, that's enormous. I'm kind of not surprised. I don't know why I say that. Maybe none of this surprises me anymore. And I don't mean that in a horrible way. I mean, right now, for a timestamp is there's a heat wave in Europe right now as we're right, and so when I say I'm not surprised, I also am not surprised because I know how expensive drug development is. I know how expensive trials are. I know how complicated it is to ship things, to have them show up on time, and if they're temperature sensitive, I mean, it's really complicated. Michael, do you want to jump in before I wanted to ask another question, but I also want to give you a chance.
Yeah, I'm interested, Hannah, where you feel like this is going, right? So for my part, I think it's really interesting, obviously from a sustainability perspective, to reduce the waste and all of those other things. But maybe you could talk a little bit more about how it just changes fundamentally how we look at cold chain, whether it's timing or how samples are handled. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's interesting, Micah, because in some ways you teed me up really well, which is the reason the time is now is partly because we're seeing so much, increase in whether it be natural disaster and kind of geopolitical changes and supply chain risk. And so we're at a time when resilience is more important than it's ever been. And of course,
Here, here.
hotter temperatures means you need a kind of a sturdier cold chain. And so
Yep.
we're in a little bit of a compounding loop right now that honestly we're going to be in for the foreseeable future. And so, getting to your question, Michael, on, where does this put us in? It's interesting. So there are tailwinds driving the need, particularly around middle mile and last mile. So that's everything we're seeing from, more personalized medicine on the cell and gene side. That's things we're seeing around more just direct to patient healthcare in general, whether that be, kind of home nursing, mobile phlebotomy, being able to really meet the patient where they are. And then that's some of the just kind of drug development trials, things we're seeing. We're seeing more and more mRNA vaccines coming out and things that require temperature management. When I think about, broadly, okay, like how does this paradigm change and where's Artyc at? We see in a world where the less we can rely on infrastructure, the better. So the more we can say, hey, we can be decentralized nodes and you can set up, a new oncology site without needing a $20,000 kind of setup because you're able to have a mobile portable cold chain, that enables us to do things we can't do quickly and easily today. And so for us, a lot of it is how do we enable really that kind of on the go, on demand cold chain. And then the other thing that's interesting is with some of our precision work, we're also thinking about how we can extend shipping lanes. And so by that, I mean moving away from overnight air shipping to, 2-day or 3-day, giving you buffer if there is that shipping delay, if there is that kind of unexpected natural disaster, or just both a cheaper and more sustainable shipping option when there's not. And so thinking about, how that brings flexibility back to the industry as well.
Hannah, are you global right now? Where are you focused? I know you're a young company. Did you start North America, extend, and kind of or how's it going? Tell me what you're doing.
Yeah, so we've started in North America. I'm currently, set up the US and Canada, and have just started looking internationally. So very much from a technical perspective are ready to be international. It's been working with the right partners and making sure that, we work with folks who are kind of committed to committed to cold, as we like to say, but committed to
Yeah,
working
I
with
like
us,
that. Committed to cold.
roll
That's
it out.
so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. Okay, so last question is thank you for kind of helping everybody understand where we're at. And I see what you're doing. I understand its importance. I agree on there's an impact. So I think there's two things. One is a very small question, which is when you're speaking to potential clients within pharma, maybe you're speaking to the CROs who subcontract with you. Who are the people who understand what you're saying and actually and it really resonates? Is it the supply chain people, the people who manage logistics and ops and are contracting and making this happen? And you're an innovator in that space. Who understands, not understands, who does your message resonate with the most?
Yeah, it's a great question. So generally, our first line of defense, if you will, but it's ClinOps. So we'll spend a lot of time with the ClinOps team. They tend to be boots on the ground, kind of really live and breathe cold chain.
Okay.
One thing I haven't talked a lot about, but that is core to what we do, is all the data. So we do work sometimes with whether it be a data science team, or if there's someone looking kind of broadly at analytics. Sometimes that sits in supply chain, sometimes that sits in innovation, but working to think about how you're taking this data and actually building a more resilient process internally.
Nice.
Hannah, what's the most unique or fun thing someone's contacted you guys about storing? I know obviously we're
That's
talking
a
about
good
medicine, but I know we've joked about caviar and chocolate. I'm curious if you can share.
Yeah, so in a very, very different industry, but we did have someone reach out about kind of very high-end tuna that they wanted to ship from
Oh,
Japan to
from
restaurants
Japan.
here in the US,
Oh,
so that
give
you
them
had
my address. Give them my address.
um,
Yes.
the daily caught, your daily tuna
Yes,
basically
totally.
shipments. So it's
That's
kind
a
of
good
fun.
one. That's a good one.
That's awesome.
That's a good one. All right, this is great. Hopefully I'll see you at Scope.
For sure.
Thanks for hanging out and talking about this. And Michael and I are going to keep doing this whenever we have a chance to kind of get interesting people. You're one of those interesting people doing your piece to kind of solve the bigger puzzle, not only within clinical trials operations, which is our little world, but also more broadly with climate change, right? Everybody has a role. So we really appreciate you hanging out, Hannah. We appreciate the work you're doing, and everybody enjoy this might not even go up before the weekend, but I'm going to say enjoy your weekend, everybody. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks for letting me
Thanks,
be number
Michael.
5. Yep. Bye-bye.